So Alan Moore, what he said was like, an artist doesn't create things for the consumer because the consumer doesn't know what they want. That it's up to the artist to show them what they want and to teach them. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
How would you guys know whose opinions to trust when it comes to?
Wait. Let me say one more thing though. So like in terms of that person who does that, the alternative shit.
Yeah.
The person was telling me, and the thing is, this is how you know I'm a very balanced person because I don't even like this person, and I don't even think this person is that confident. But when the person told me that they thought the other person was threatened by her confidence, I was saying in my head, I was like, I can see that. I can see, based on this person's personality, that they are threatened by the fact that this person just does whatever they want, and they're not comfortable doing that. So it bothers them, and then they project on this person. I could see it. Because, like, people will do that. If they see that you live your life however you live it, they'll envy you. They'll be like, I wonder how he does that. I've had people say shit like that to me. Like, oh,
I've seen it. I've seen it when the LARP kids were out here having fun. People laughing, making fun of them, and it's like, see, look at them enjoying life, and you over here on the outside hating.
Yeah. You're sitting there wondering when he's gonna text you back. And like, yeah, that kid is out there swinging that foam sword. He's getting his fucking workout in. First of all,
nah, they weren't doing
cardio.
It. Nah, those I'm talking about those ones I knew they weren't doing.
Oh, when I was doing that shit in college, we were running at each other and swinging them.
There was like only one. There was one chick that when it was time to battle, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be a workout. Everyone else was like.
Nah, we were knocking each other out with those swords. Yeah, but we were doing it. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, how would you guys?
Real question: who allowed you to say that?
How would you guys know whose opinion to trust when it comes to your craft?
That's a great question, EJ.
But
the answer is you don't know. You don't know. You gonna have to take some good advice.
Like
you have to take some bad advice.
Yeah.
Even
you fuck around and find out.
Even in terms of your life, man, like. You have to listen. You have to listen to people. Sometimes you don't have to listen to them. Like, you have to be smart enough to know when advice is good and when it isn't. When it applies to you and when it doesn't. Like,
I think it takes some experience. Like I said, like you're gonna have to take both good and bad advice.
I also think what plays
out.
a part in that is like it's like how dedicated you are to your craft. Like they always say, what is it, 10,000 hours you put in, it makes you a master. Apparently, something like that. But if you somebody that's really dedicated, like you spend a lot of time writing, you've examined other authors and other works, and you have like an example to kind of lean off of, and you know like what your style is, and you're very knowledgeable on it, as opposed to somebody that's just entering that space, and you're writing something for the first time.
Oh yeah. Advice is gonna be different.
Yeah,
for those
you know kind of who to go to. It's not always like I gotta go to the person that wrote a masterpiece or like an expert in this area, but you kind of know like whose opinion you can trust based off of the kind of work you've done on your own. You know what I'm saying? Like if you wrote a lot, if you've been in like writer circles, if you whatever, like you kind of know who to go to for that.
Yeah, like at my job, right? Like for example, I'll give you an example. My dad, when it came to like working out and stuff, he was trying to tell me to stop. He's like, "Oh, you're getting too big," blah blah blah, yada yada yada, right? And I just kind of ignored it because I've heard that before. I thought it was stupid, right? But like you said, you're now talking to a master. Yeah. Like there's a guy on my job who's like, he was a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
His advice, I was actually listening to, like it was the word of God.
It kind of means more.
Yeah, because
even if you're not doing that before, like you have some familiarity in that area.
Yeah, exactly. And
cause
he doesn't do it anymore, but obviously he's gonna know way more than your layman. And like with the stuff he was saying, I was listening to it like real, like hard body. Like he was talking about, like how like he was like one of the things he told me that was very interesting is how if he could do it over again, he wouldn't even have touched any weights. That's what he said. He said he would have done complete calisthenics and all that kind of stuff. So that's really good advice to listen to a lot of the time. Like when someone who's been doing the thing that you're trying to do literally tells you, yeah, here are the things I would have avoided if I was at your level. That's usually the advice you got to really pay attention to because they're literally trying to tell you the pitfalls that you can end up in.
But then you have a situation. Did you guys ever see the movie Fences with Denzel?
Yeah.
Or read the book?
Yeah.
We read the book, yeah. Well, we read the book.
Yeah. I remember I sent the clip to the chat where he was talking. Denzel plays the father of this kid that wants to get into he wanted to play football. And this goes based off of the point that you were just saying. Like, you want to lean off of somebody that been in that kind of space before, like they experienced, they done that kind of work.
Yeah.
And he was going to his father, telling him, like, he wanted to be a football player, and his dad, Denzel's character, was a baseball player, but like in the was it like the Jim Crow era, where like there was still heavily racism going on, and black people weren't accepted in sports leagues, and so his perspective on it is kind of swayed by that, by growing up in that era and being around that. So now it's like 20 years after that, and that's become more acceptable in the world where, like, black people playing in sports leagues, and his dad, his son wants to get into sports, and he's kind of approaching it from like how it was in his generation. Mm-hmm. So it's like sometimes just because you've done that kind of work, that's the point I'm making. Just because you've done that kind of work, or you've been, you pursued that kind of thing before, it doesn't mean that you necessarily can guide someone on it.
Oh, that's where the awareness, it's on you to have the awareness.
Just like
if someone tells you,
kind of have to audit that yourself in a way.
If someone tells you something and you're listening to what they're saying,
it's like they're biased.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is not applicable to me in this current scenario or this situation. Like, you have to really think about that on your own. But it's like, in terms of like the bodybuilding thing, why it was kind of timeless. Yeah. Because it's not like humans.
That's timeless.
Yeah, because it's not like humans mutated into a new species.
Yeah. Actually,
since the 1980s or whatever. Yeah.
But it depends on what particular thing it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes even the experts, like they'll be just as biased as someone that hasn't.
That's great advice. Yeah. That's great what you just said. Because I was just talking to Ray about this in terms of writing, right? Or just like creative things in general. I was noticing, I was talking to him about how I was looking at these fucking soap operas. Because I was in the dentist with my mom, right? I'm looking up at the soap opera thing, and I'm looking at the show The Young and the Restless. And I remember how when I was a fucking baby, I had seen that show. And I was like, okay, I wonder how long that show been around. I Googled it, and that show had been around for like 53 years or some shit. I was like, holy shit. And then I started looking up the other ones that they were listing. This one soap opera, Guiding Light, began as a fucking radio show in like the 1940s, right? And then it becomes a TV show, and it kept going and going, and it ended in 2009. 74 fucking years. So I was thinking in my head, I was like, damn, these shows have been on for like several decades, and they're the most formulaic drivel you can possibly think of, right? And I was like, but then you look at shows that are very complex and have all these arcs and things, and they last for like 2-3 seasons. And I was like, when you listen to, like, writers will tell you goofy shit like, the basics of writing, you gotta write something interesting and deep and meaningful. And then I thought about it, I was like, but how come the most enduring stuff does not have any of those traits?
Soap operas, I feel, are a little weird because the whole purpose of a soap opera is drama, right? So I could just keep adding drama. I could do the same drama over and over again. Yeah. Like, remember how we had Degrassi? Like, the premise of Degrassi was, like, every year we're following new freshmen or whatever, and the previous freshmen are, like, the sophomores. So, like, as we watch it, we can watch a whole class go from freshmen to seniors, right? So, like, they'll just, like, retain some characters or whatever, but, like, they could just do the same storylines over and over and over again. And it works. I was watching Degrassi for a bit.
Yeah. But my point is just, like, it's like...
too caught up in that.
Yeah, my point is just these experts, a lot of time... I don't want to say a lot of time. But in terms of like
I'll say a lot of time.
Something as subjective as like creating fiction, a lot of the advice they give you will be very foolish and very catered to them and very fucking biased. And they present it as if it's this objective truth. Oh, and
you fall for it because
because they have the prestige, Like fucking Alan Moore is and I have a lot of respect for this guy, right? And he said something I thought was really dumb once, where he was talking about writing, and he said, because right now in the comic book industry, there are two factions. You have the Comicsgate people and like the SJW people, right? And SJW people kind of follow what Alan Moore was saying. Comicsgate kind of believes in the idea that the customer is right? So Alan Moore, what he said was like, an artist doesn't create things for the consumer because the consumer doesn't know what they want. That it's up to the artist to show them what they want and to teach them. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
All right, like, to a certain extent, I can kind of agree.
Here's why. I'm going to say why I don't agree with that and why I think it's foolish. No, it is not true that the consumer does not know what they want. They do know what they want. It is up to you to present to them what they want in an interesting way that appeals to them and, you know, kind of surprises them. But generally speaking, people want a level of entertainment and they kind of want it in a certain way. And to now set yourself up as this kind of arbiter of quality is like, it's very like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very pretentious. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
The reason I said I could kind of see what he is saying is like because I want more like specific like if someone's like, I want a superhero show where this exact thing.
Oh yeah,
No, you don't want that.
But that's
just whack.
That's comes from
bad.
That comes from, but it's like generally speaking, you know, the general things. You can't take your specific general beliefs and ideologies and interests and just go, I'm just gonna write whatever the fuck I'm into and that's it. If you want to be successful, right? You don't do that.
You don't have to play by the rules a little.
Yes, and generally speaking, if you're gonna be an artist, I think you should be thinking of what people want to see. You should be obsessed with this idea of beauty and cohesion. If you're an artist, I know people kind of like to get into the romantic part. You're communicating your soul.
Yeah, or beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, that's goofy. Yeah. That's goofy and stupid. Because when you look at the enduring arts, right? Of course, you have things like
Da Vinci.
Yeah, abstract art and that kind. But yeah, it's real shit like Da Vinci Monet. And fucking Michelangelo and all these beautiful portraits. Yeah, these are the things that endure over time. And that's because the person was like, I have a beautiful idea in my head that I want to make a reality.
And there was literally like a school of art. Like there was that's what people don't get about art. Like there was an objective standard in order to get accepted into these schools of art. Like there was an academy for it. Yeah. Where like you had to meet a certain criteria. Mm-hmm. Where it's like you can't just use that argument about, oh well, you know, it's art, you don't get it. You know, like this is it means something that it extends past whatever standard you have. But no, there's like a specific standard. Like not everybody could get into this school. Yeah. Not everybody could get their art commissioned.
Yeah, and generally speaking, I don't think you need to have to like make your stuff exactly as like the standard dictates. But I think generally speaking, you should be somewhat concerned with presenting something that people will like in some way, shape, or form. You can't just go out there saying, I'm just going to make whatever the fuck I want.
It serves as an outline, because if you don't have the outline, it's just like people could do anything that they want to do.
Yeah, I think a true artist...
Framework.
Yeah, I think a true artist is concerned with sharing things that they believe people will enjoy. And it will be, if you're doing it correctly, there will be aspects of yourself in this thing. And a pretentious snob is the person who's like, I'm just going to put my fucking heart out there, and you take of it what you will. Yeah. That's when you're being pretentious. You're not an artist at all, in my opinion. And I don't even think Alan Moore does what he was saying. And I think he does think a lot about what is like beautiful and that kind of stuff. He did, because he talks about it. I've heard him talk about it other times.
I mean, because if we lean so heavily on standards for like everything to be accepted, it has to follow that standard. Then it wouldn't be what people consider what things are considered to be cult classics, where it's accepted by a minor community or small population. Yeah. And even like things that weren't received well in its time, but got received later on, when people went back or decided to film, whether it was a film, TV show, like you wouldn't have that if it was just like you have to live by this set standard that's in place.
That's another thing that's a part of the creative process too, actually. Finding your niche. Yeah. Like even in terms of your life and in terms of creative projects. And again, I think your life is the ultimate creative project, to be honest. Yeah. Like that is your ultimate project. That's the thing that's going to be the total sum of what you've been doing, right? When you fucking die. But yeah, it's like, because even if, let's say you're the most beautiful writer, but your life was shit, did you really like live a good life? You know? Like, sure, you created a lot of good work, but your life sucked.
Like, she was depressed, he was alcoholic.
Yeah. It's like, I wouldn't consider that a victory, you know what I mean? But
if no one remembers that part.
But they do.
Well, if they don't.
It's like you literally...
They do. They immortalize it. The idea of the hard-drinking writer and why people now think they need to be these chaotic retards in order to be creative is because of that.
Like, think of the situation where you do produce something and the world remembers that thing, but they don't remember the rest of it. Like, they don't remember the bad parts of you.
Yeah, it doesn't. But I mean, for you,
you literally died for your work.
In your personal existence, it matters. In your personal existence, unless
which one's more
you just didn't care
in the grand scheme of
honestly,
everything.
In terms of you, who you are, your personal existence matters more.
Nah, I'm talking about the grand scheme of everything.
Nah,
but
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter because people can't live in your shoes. They can't see the day to day. They see the final product.
What fucking grand scheme is there? What the fuck does that mean? There is no grand scheme. Yeah. There's no grand scheme. There are things happening.
People act like there is one, right?
Yeah, there are things happening, and they just happen concurrently, and sometimes there's synchronicity. That's all it is. You own nothing. You don't owe anything to the fucking universe. Live your life.
Does the universe owe you?
No, you don't owe anything to the universe, and the universe does not owe you. Live your fucking life in a cohesive and good way. Yeah,
I'm believing any of that shit.
Yeah. No, but you're right though. That in terms of what you did for the greater good, yeah, that's awesome, and it's good in that way. But I will still feel pity for your personal life if I knew that you had to do all these things. I'm not gonna be like, oh, it was worth it in the end. Like, no, I'm gonna say it was sad that he had to do these things. I still appreciate his work.
I felt that way.
Yeah,
but I was like, I made sacrifices to do some things. Like, nah, not worth. Wouldn't do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah, you sacrifice your mental.
Yeah, it's not like live a good life. That you should live a good life. I know a lot of people now have that popular conception of the mad genius in their head, and they think that shit's cute, where your life is in disarray. Yeah, your life is in disarray, and you're like, oh yeah, but at least I'm. I thought I was gonna die. Yeah. At least I'm so fucking clever and cool. Oh, I'm like Gregory from House. I'm like Dr. Gregory House.
I have not seen one single episode.
Basically,
of
House. It's a guy. Show. It's a guy who's suffering. His life sucks, and he hates himself.
Great at his job.
Yeah,
but
he hates.
Personal life sucks.
Because everything sucks.
Same thing with Don Draper and Matt.
And then he have like a whole revelation after he nearly gets killed, and he tries to change things.
Damn, now I can't ever watch the show.
House.
No, I'm not gonna watch that shit.
Yeah,
it's too late.
But the thing is, like,
it's funny because they try to glorify those characters.
Yeah,
because you see, I be watching like different clips from Mad Men, and people be commenting like, if people tried this in the real world, it wouldn't work that way. Like, this is what led to his downfall in the show, right? Like, small actions like these that we want to glorify.
Even in the thing I was saying, when I watched him in the movie and he said never lie, and in the movie, him not lying is presented as this good, altruistic, noble thing, but then in real life, all it does is get people mad at you.
Yeah, people just don't like you.
People get mad at you. And I don't really care. Because, like, it has the effect. Because the thing is, in this life, you have to be comfortable with being not liked in order to be liked.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you have to be like,
people I knew who just wanted everyone to like them were miserable.
Exactly.
What was that play by Arthur Miller?
That's a great question.
Oh,
not the Crucible. The other, Death of a Salesman.
Oh yeah.
The father in that play, he was telling his son like everything, son. All you gotta do is be well liked. That's all you gotta be. But he was he was an insurance salesman. So like he works in sales, and like in sales, you want to be liked by your consumers.
Yeah, no, in sales you definitely want to be liked.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but you can if you seem like a very authentic salesman, you can make a lot of sales.
He was trying to get him to take that approach.
I genuinely feel that if you're a more agreeable person, you get more sales than if you're an authentic person. Authentic people, you will get more repeat customers. More people will be like, I fuck with that person. Yeah. But if you're just trying to make a quick sale, it's the other way.
You'll be more successful.
Like if I am say like a business owner, I want to be more authentic. But if I'm like a door-to-door salesman, I'm gonna try to be more like, because it's just the more of a in the moment, blah blah blah, yeah, your buddy type shit. Where it's like if you're coming to me, and I'm like, I want to seem more like an expert. Yeah. Where like I am like, yes, this is my craft, this is it. If you don't like it, go fuck off.
It makes sense within that career, but I think he was trying to extend that philosophy
into life.
His whole life. Like he wanted his son to just be well liked.
And it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
You start to realize that because it's like something that Patrice O'Neal said. That's a part of philosophy as well. It's so funny how comedians intersect on a lot of philosophy without realizing it, and I think it's because. One of the reasons why I think comedians should never be like fucking censored in any way is because for all of history, comedy has been the best place to poke fun at the systems of authority and the daily conventions of life. Comedy is how they did that, and it works really well in that respect. So Patrice O'Neal was talking about how every time he would lie and why he stopped lying. Every time you lie or try to do something to be agreeable, he's like, a part of you dies. He's like, you die every time. You die inside. And it's true. Each time you strive trying to be likable and denying yourself, like, happiness, you're just going to die inside. You're going to become a miserable person. Because, like, oh, everyone likes me, but who are you? Do you exist?
Yeah, everyone likes that idea of you. No one likes you.
Like, no one knows who you are.
Everyone likes you, but no one loves you.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Yeah. When you're sitting there trying to be agreeable all the time, people are like, yeah, he's that cool guy. They might not even know your fucking name. They're just like, oh, that's that cool guy. He's kind of a cool guy. You're barely memorable. People remember you more if you're an asshole they don't like, to be honest. You know?
True.
But if you're a guy who, like, he's generally a really cool guy. Every once in a while he says something kind of fucked up, but he's pretty cool. You're going to get more people who like you because they're going to be people who know that they fuck with you than they're going to be people who just don't like you.
Are there only 4 main characters in Seinfeld?
Yep.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a little bit. But I know it's out of topic.
What were you saying before?
I've never seen it. What were
you saying before about before we got into this topic? It was
something I said.
Writing, something about writing, or creative process and being like presenting it a certain way.
Well, I was pretty much what we was talking about and how we got into this was is like balancing out the audience element to it, where like you have to kind of audit whose opinions you value, whose opinions you don't value, and if you actually done the work yourself, like you're not just a newbie in this field or in this craft, where like you actually put the work in yourself and you know what quality looks like.
Yeah.
And you know if somebody's gonna be able to assess whether or not that's quality.
Yeah.
I think those are important, but not leaning so heavily on somebody that's the expert and has published however many books and sold how many copies, because even their perspectives could be inflated and biased by certain things.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then we were talking about how, like I said, like especially if you're talking to the artistic type, they'll give you a bunch of stupid advice that makes no sense. Like it's like I was saying to you, like it was over the course of my life as I would write different things that I began to realize I did not want to be this like flowery writer who wrote all this.
I think Ref, when he was doing his book, he said he went to a professor, right, for editing.
On the professor. Oh yeah, I think he didn't like what the professor told me.
Yeah, he was saying he didn't like it. He disagreed with it.
Yeah.
So
even though when he told me the professor said, I actually thought it was pretty reasonable. But that's
like I was saying before, like you got to pick the direction you want to go in. Like it could be good advice. Like if you don't want to go in that direction, you don't want to.
It's like if you're selling your script to a studio, right?
A studio exec.
And you want to make a movie out of it, and
it's like either
they're willing to do it, but they want to make those changes to it, and you feel like it takes away from.
Do you stay true to your vision, or do you tweak it to be what they want it to be?
And it's like, you're gonna be successful. They're gonna give you whatever millions of dollars.
You should never do that, because what ends up happening is it comes out, and you thought you would have been okay with it in the moment, but then you look at what's on the screen and it's nothing like what you originally had.
Some authors have felt that way when their books get adapted into movies, where their vision is compromised because it's just not the product that they agree with.
It's like it completely misses the point. But it's like, as I was writing, I realized I did not want to do this thing where I strive to be like, this like, oh, I'm going to write flowery prose and my language is going to be so beautiful and everyone's going to... I was like, you know what? That kind of stuff is kind of lame and just navel gazing. Because like I'm doing the writing. I'm writing for myself. That's what I realized. It's like I'm writing to impress myself. Yeah. And I was like, that's kind of dumb. I was like, I should be writing to have other people have an enjoyable experience and be able to look into my story and enter a world.
Too,
true.
I feel like there's a balance.
Yeah, balance. Yeah, like I have to like what I'm writing. Yeah,
indeed.
But at the same time, I don't want it to be like I'm only writing for myself and not thinking about the audience at all. Then they pick up my work and they're just like, this shit is incoherent.
What made you feel like, because you've been writing the stories for a while, right?
Yeah.
What made you feel like it was finally complete, that you was able to like send it out to people?
These stories actually I wrote them really quickly, but generally speaking, across what made me start changing my perspective is like I would read. It's like I said, I would notice things like the soap operas and that kind of stuff, and as I grew up from being a pretentious little kid who had these like really snobby standards for things, and I started to notice the simplistic, the good qualities in very simplistic things.
Yeah. And
I'd find that they were enjoyable, even if they were very simplistic and high concept and that kind of stuff. I was like, what? Because like, and it was also my hatred of critics that started to make me realize, I was like, these critics have these really stupid standards where they want to see things in a very specific way towards their specific interest. And when it doesn't match their specific interest, they tout it as if it's this. It's objectively what you're supposed to do when you're creating something. I'm like, oh, really? Is that the case? How come why all the stupid art films you like, no one fucking knows about them? But this thing that you're ragging on, everyone loves. I was like, is that really the objective quality we must all follow?
Everybody or are you just have a niche following?
Yeah, it's like, are you just talking? Following. It's like, are you just talking out of your ass? Is it just what you like? And you just...
I never understood how you even became a critic. Like, what qualifications do you even need to become a critic?
Usually,
critic,
fucking failed creatives a lot of the time.
Because, like they're getting to the point where it's like there are so many critics who like bomb a movie, and then fans are like, yo, this was great.
Yeah.
Opposite, where people's like, this is going to be the best movie ever. And everyone's like, yo, this movie is mid as fuck. Like,
that's
so it's
why,
like, I'm like,
that's why people were exposing Rotten Tomatoes, because some of their, some of their reviews is like by the critics is fucking
man.
Doesn't make any sense.
Critics kind of bring that age-old adage.
Like they'll apply like these strict standards to something that is not made to be digested that way.
And
like
again,
like a comedy film.
Nonsensical.
Like a comedy is supposed to serve the purpose of making you laugh and do other things, but they'll rate that the way that they'll judge an action film or a drama film. And it's like that's not meant to be taken in that way.
Nonsensical standards a lot of the time
like
too.
You can be a great comedy film doesn't mean you're gonna be a great film.
Yeah, because like the thing with critics,
be great in what you do.
Critics kind of give legitimacy to that age-old saying that if you can't do, teach, right? So it's like if you can't do, criticize. So like I'm telling you, a lot of critics are like art school students and that kind of stuff who like
went to school for that kind of work,
and then they didn't do it. So then they become critics, and they think that because they studied it, they now like they're like I'm an authority, and it's like no, you're just a fucking you in this era you could. All you'd have to do is sign up for one of these.
Even look at some of the most popular musicians, like, you know, a lot of them was playing in their garage, like famous bands.
Remember that conversation we had where we were watching the thing about Jimmy Neutron and how they broke and bend the rules, and me and you were talking about how often we've seen that where the thing that bent the rules and did things in opposition to the supposed standard always end up becoming the things that stand out.
Like some of these groups, they weren't technically sound. They didn't go to schools where it was centered on music, where they were taught how to play certain notes.
That's what the grunge era is all about. Yeah. Grunge was all about these artists who were not technically talented, but they were producing quality music and just doing what they had to do.
Now there's certain groups that are technically talented.
Yes, and there's nothing wrong with
Rush or what's the other progressive rock group? Dream Theater.
Dream Theater, Blue Oyster Cult, the Thinking Man's Metal, as they call it.
And there's
just words to me.
They're classic rock bands.
There's room for them too, but not every band has to be Rush.
You can just do your own thing. Yeah. Like there's this comic book writer, right? His name is Rob Liefeld, and people have made a career hating this motherfucker for no reason.
Uglier drawings.
Yeah, well, a lot of it's over exaggeration, but the thing is, right.
Nah, I remember that one Captain America drawing.
Well,
but that's probably the one that's like, yo, come on, what is this?
It turns out
even with actors, some actors didn't go to acting.
There's a video I can send you about that.
Go ahead, because I want to know what's going on in his mind when you drew that.
Yeah, it was people that used to rap. They became an actor and they're good at it. So.
Yeah, the thing is with this Rob Liefeld, right? He kind of.
I would say him.
He did.
50 Cent got it though.
He did a very kind of grunge thing, where he kind of just would do what he wanted and would like break rules and create these very dynamic pages, and it worked. It was selling books and he was doing good, but then like he had a lot of enemies who were mad at him for being this new kid on the scene who just experienced this big explosion of success, and in their minds they're like, he's not even doing it the right way. Like he's not doing what.
That same shit happened to Elden Ring's not like like From Software made Elden Ring. Yeah. They're not like new kids on the block in any regards, but when Elden Ring dropped, a lot of other developers were really upset at Elden Ring because it broke the rules.
Broke convention.
They were like, "Oh, the UI is bad. This is bad. Like you don't even know what missions you have." And it's just like everyone's like, "No, we're tired of the other shit."
It's like, yeah, this is just evolution. Let it happen.
Not even that. It's like because technically it was like the shit we used to do in the past. It's just like people like Ubisoft.
But even that can be evolution, because now you're putting a new spin on that old thing.
Yeah. But specifically, it was like people like Ubisoft, because a lot of the Ubisoft developers were mad because whatever.
Yeah,
but they were mad because
it might be too much to get into. Yeah.
Yeah, but like whenever there's a Ubisoft game, it's like you load up. Here's your mini map. It's ... Like there's a fucking HUD that has all this information. This, that, and the third. You take 2 steps. Tutorial pop up, and it's like this is how you play the game. It's like. Can I fucking
Assassin's Creed?
Everyone got tired of that shit. Everyone's like, look, bro, I'm not even playing the game anymore. It's like on rails.
Like, maybe can I make it an immersive experience? And then
it's like, leave me the fuck alone.
Make it an immersive experience, yeah. Because like even like, and I think oh my god, now we're really getting into this. Now you're making me you just accessed a part of me that well, now it's really coming out. Like I remember one of the things that made me first start to realize that a lot of the conventions I was like so obsessed with were kind of dumb. Was like I'd read these stories. Look, I remember I had this old sci-fi book. It was like I don't even know if I still have it. It was like an anthology book, and one of the stories in there was just so fucking weird. It was like written in this weird poetic style, and I remember I was fucking enamored with the thing more than every other story in the book, and it was so fucking weird the way it was written. And it's like you could barely understand what it was about. But it's like it did this weird thing where instead of telling like a direct story, it felt like this poetic like saga. And it's like you could feel the emotions of what was happening inside of you. And it was like an immersive experience, much more so than the other stories in the book, which were like, yeah, here's a cool idea. Isn't it kind of interesting that this is a thing? This is so deep and scientific, right? You know, but this thing was just like, it was more focused on like the emotion of this like thing. And I was like, wow, that was fucking beautiful. And I looked at that shit, and then it kind of changed everything for me. Like I've always been very poetic with my writing, but I remember I became very poetic after reading that. And I just started writing things the way I wanted to write them. And then even in my writing class, when I would do my writing into like these really weird experimental things, I would just experiment with shit. Just try something new. I was like, I'm going to write this. And I would just do it. And then my teacher would always really like it. And I remember he said to me, never stop writing. He's like, never stop. Keep writing. And that shit really, I was like, fuck all that bullshit about, because I used to always see these dumb writers giving you like advice and things that you should do. And I was like, that works for you, but maybe I just want to do this. I'm going to do it like this, and that's it.
Not for you, because there were certain times where I played certain games where it really like made me fall back in love with video games because they would do something different. Maybe they like told a story in a different way, or they had this weird game mechanic that was just like really nice. Like one of the prominent memories I have is playing this game called Thomas Was Alone. I keep talking about this fucking game.
Oh yeah, you showed
it's
me
literally just a bunch of blocks. Like you're a bunch of blocks, but the characterization they put into these fucking blocks, like they're just so attached to me now. Yeah. Like literally just like they're seeing a fucking just fucking square. I'm like, that's my homie, that's my boy Thomas, that's John. Fuck Claire, she's kind of annoying. I'm just looking at fucking square.
Yep, and that's exactly what I was telling you. The beauty of being able to take these complex ideas, put them in something really simplistic,
making it relatable,
and it still has an impact. That is the mark of an amazing writer.
I don't think Claire did anything wrong. I just picked the name.
But that is an amazing writer right there. Like anyone can sit there and just write something super complex, in my opinion. It doesn't necessarily have to be good, right? But to be able to take a complex idea, put it in a very simple package, and it still deeply impacts people, that is amazing.
Like, when you get toward the end of Thomas Was Alone, it's some sort of existentialism thing, bro. Yeah. And it was like, this is the game about blocks, right?
I remember one of my favorite projects I did for our old graphics class with Mr. Greiner. I remember it was like a thing. We had to do something. We had to make like almost like a miniature movie. So what I did is I made like a time travel story. It was like this guy's girl like dying, and he goes back in time. But the way I did was exactly what you said. I had like these circles and shit representing certain people and that kind of stuff. And then I had a clock that represented the machine. He uses the clock, and then there was a picture of a wormhole, and you see him going down the wormhole like that. Mr. Grinder loved that shit. He thought that shit was the best thing ever. Because everyone else, it was just like, yeah, I made a story about this. And then you see like some picture of someone. But my shit was just a block going back in time. It was like it was completely unexpected.
I don't think I had that project.
No, we had to make movies and shit sometimes.
I don't think I did that one.
What you did? We had to make movies.
I remember I had to make a song.
Oh, I guess he did different things for different classes.
Like, you didn't have to make a song?
I don't remember ever having to make a song.
I had to make music. That's what I had to do.
I made a movie. I didn't make a movie. We had to make a trailer once, and I made a trailer.
Yeah, no, I don't think.
Shit. That's so interesting.
Shit, we never know.
Yeah. And there was the thing that Kumar did. Yo, this was me at my peak, my fucking humor, where Kumar wanted to interview people in the class. So when he got to my interview, everyone else was answering his questions legitimately and normal. But me, I had to be stupid and weird. So like he's asked me like about movies or so, or like what makes me excited. And I was talking about movies. And I was like, what makes me excited about movies is like when I'm watching a movie, it has to really like shock me so much that I kind of like piss myself in the movie theater. And like I'm sitting there talking about pissing myself, and I remember it was so weird because I'm doing this with a completely straight face. And everyone loved it. They thought that shit was hilarious. And I was just like, I don't know why I did that. It just came to me in the midst of when he was asking me the questions. And you can hear Kumar like cracking up behind the camera on the other side, like dying.
Sometimes I miss that boy.
Oh, yeah. Kumar sometimes. Oh, man. Well, you really opened up the wellspring when we were talking about the projects.
Just to bring it back.
I won't lie, this is uncomfortable. You're right, EJ. This is uncomfortable.
No, that one's uncomfortable.
See, I can sit in that chair all day.
This one's better.
But it's like, because of the way this is attached, I am very uncomfortable right now. But we're going to fix that. We're
going to get some better chairs, yeah.
No, yeah, just to summarize.
Buy me chair, bro?
Yeah, if you get a chair, it's easy.
Just to summarize.
Oh, yeah, I guess we could close those up now.
You said the time factor, being okay to fail, being okay with failing, and then the third one being knowing your audience, knowing when to care about who you're trying to please,
knowing who to take advice from. Mm-hmm. I guess that'll be the fourth.
It falls in line with the third one, but you could say
not because like the advice thing. I think the advice thing is separate from audience, because audience is like who you're making the stuff for, or in terms of like let's say.
Oh yeah, advice on it. Yeah, that is different. That is different.
Yeah, but if we're talking like in terms of like your personal life. Like, we're thinking of, like, your life as a creative project. Yeah. Then I guess the critic and audience thing can be combined. Because, like, when you're putting a life together, the people around you are the audience, right? And they might have things to say about your personal life. Yeah. And sometimes what they're saying may be legitimate. Like, if you're working out 7 days a week and you're pissing blood and not sleeping correctly, it's almost like, I think you're affecting your health. I think you need to take it easy.
You need to relax.
I would also add another one that I just thought of, which would be a lot of people when it comes to a craft that they're not getting paid to do, like they approach it like a hobby.
The fuck is Sword and Sandal?
Oh, that's a classic like genre. It's just like barbarian shit. Like just imagine that like olds they're fighting each other.
I read that. I was like,
no, it's just like classic war genre. They're fighting each other, and it's like warriors fighting and that kind of thing, like Conan the Barbarian. But Conan the Barbarian is sword and sorcery, so there's like magic in there.
Yeah, like I was saying, a lot of people look at that kind of thing as like just a hobby or something they could do for fun. But like when you approach it like this is a career, when you're passionate about it, even with us doing this, like if you have to invest some money in it, not just time but your money, and actually get behind it. To jumpstart it, that's when
I think this is like also
the effort has to be there, and it's not just like I don't have the time for it because we talked about that as being the first hurdle, but also like, this is something that I want to do for the rest of my life. Where like I don't want to go to this 9 to 5. Like I want this to be my 9 to 5.
Yeah, I don't want this to be my 9 to 5.
Oh, you wouldn't want to just be able to sit in your house. And
I'm saying
not literally like 9. We're doing this from 9 to 5.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny
9 a.m. to 5 p.m. All right, guys. I gotta talk to you.
That's the funny
Let me tell you something.
If you became successful in this, it does become like it becomes like a big ass like
yeah. Look, man.
Company.
Like if this blew up or whatever,
it's like your Linus guy, like the guy who makes the Linus Tech Tip shit.
Yeah, his name's Linus.
That shit's a company.
It is a company.
That's his
it's
9 to 5
Linus
now.
Media Group now.
But
yeah, that shit's a company.
He was talking about it.
It's not just a YouTube channel. It's a fucking company now.
It's a YouTube channel.
No, I think the
company.
Company on YouTube.
Yeah, but it's he
has buildings and shit.
He has to approach it differently.
Bro, I respect it a lot. Shit, I respect it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. The mindset. I think the mindset has to change with people.
Hit me up when got opening.
Like, people start doing.
That'd be cool to meet him actually.
People start doing things where like now they approach it as a career, but then they lose their devotion in it because like, oh, this was fun to me until it had to be about money. But it's like,
well, yeah,
you were never that passionate about it though.
No. Because someone was saying like, when you like say you're doing your hobby, you have to make a choice at some point where like say you're selling something like say you're a clay maker, right? If you're making clay sculptures and whatever, and that was your hobby, and then you're like, let me just sell the excess, you have to make a conscious decision. Do I want this to be a business or I want it to stay a hobby? Because once you make the decision
it takes less time and that kind of
thing. Well,
thing.
because it's like once you decide to make it a business, it's not about the creative process.
Because you kind of have to live off.
Oh no. I disagree. I think it's about the creative process.
What I'm saying is not about the creative process. Is like once you like I told you, once you start maximizing profit, you're gonna go down in quality. So if it's say you are making those clay pots, but now and you have like this whole list of people, you're gonna have to like bring on more people.
You have to be concerned.
Do this.
And now it has to be. This is when the balance comes into it. Because like before, when you're just making that shit for fun, you didn't have to give a fuck about like.
That's why I said you have to make the choice.
Yeah.
Because if you want to choose to not make it a full-time business, you can just up your price and you can keep the requests low, but like you can still like profit off it.
That's actually the method I would actually suggest going for, to be honest.
But if you wanted it to be a business, then you can keep your costs the same, but up a production where you bring in more people and do shit like that.
Yeah, because I think.